Hello, this is David William Weissner, and this is another episode of uh, David Speaks. So today we're going to talk about cats, pets, cats, dogs. I love dogs. I love cats. I've had a special affinity for cats my whole life. I grew up with a dog. My mother was pregnant with me, and she had scarlet fever, and they thought she could die. And my mother asked my father for a puppy, figuring my father didn't really like dogs or cat. He's not really into it. But my mother asked my father for a puppy, and that's what Zipper came about. Okay, that was his name, Zipper. So the dog came along before me, and I was born to a puppy. My mother lived, thankfully. I lived, and I grew up with a dog named Zipper. He was a half cocker spaniel, half poodle, wonderful dog, very sweet doggy, and I loved him forever. All right, this is more about cats. This episode. When I was 11, my friend and I were hanging out by PS 54 in Staten Island where we went. I think we were like in, I don't know, fifth grade at the time. And we were sitting around just by the fence, just hanging out. And this little black and white kitten came up to us right through the fence. There's a black gated fence. And I don't know. I loved all animals, so we started playing with with her, and petting her for a while. And then after like an hour of this, we're like, all right, let's go home. So we started walking down the block, and this kitten, she started following us. And my school was like 10 blocks from home, and the cat followed me like 6, 7 blocks home. I'm like, we can't get rid of this kitten. And finally, I picked her up. I said, oh, I guess she's coming home with us. And I brought her in, and I showed my mother the kitten. I said, Ma, can we keep the kitten? And she said, absolutely not, David. I'm allergic to cats. Your father doesn't like cats. We have a dog. And I said, well, let's try to get her a home at least. Can we keep her in the garage and feed her? And my mother was like, all right, we'll try to find her a home. So I snuck the cat up to my bedroom at night and played with the kitten. I named her Kitty. Not very original, but that was the cat's name, Kitty. And well, I could say, as I say in my book, um, eventually the cat became my cat, and we had her for 16 amazing years. And that day changed my life, meeting that cat. It gave me a love of cats that I'll never outgrow. Now, with Kitty, um, I'm not sure her age. It must have been about 10, 11 or 12. She left. I mean, we don't. She was an outdoor indoor cat, like a lot of cats are, and so she would leave for the day and hang out in the yard and chase squirrels and bring us presents. She was a great hunter. She could grab a mouse or a worm or a snake. These crows, they hated her. You know, crows are extremely smart birds, and they would swoop down at her and try to get her. And one time, this is the most amazing thing. I have such a vivid memory of it. Kitty jumped in the air, flipped over, grabbed the crow in her hands, and bit the crow's neck and came down with it dead in its neck. It's the coolest thing I've ever seen. I couldn't believe it. All right, I loved Kitty. She was my first cat. And then I guess I was about 19, 20, and she left. I mean, I don't know. Somebody must have took her because she didn't come home one night, and I was devastated. We looked all over for the cat. We put up signs. You know, there was no Facebook or anything back then. This is like 1989, 1990, and you know, I wept. I was depressed from the cat, and I was also in a depression state anyway. And that was it. That was my cat. It drove me crazy. Where's Kitty? We didn't know. We thought she was dead. Maybe she got hit by a car or something. So, about 6 months later, my mother said, "You know, we should get another cat for you." And I said, "All right, let's get another cat. Kitty's gone." So we're gonna go. She had a cousin who worked at the ASPCA and in Manhattan, and she got in touch with this cousin. He said he had a lot of kittens. Come look at the kittens, and we will, you know, we'll adopt a kitten. I want another kitten. So That night I had a dream. And in the dream, I saw this calico cat, a full grown calico cat, orange and white, calico and black. And she was like, she was like two halves. Strange dream. I have a lot of strange dreams. And then I saw Kitty coming back, and Kitty was there too. And I knew that was my cat from the dream. It was a prophecy. Not that the cat would get cut in half. It wasn't. It was just like a symbolic thing. But I knew Kitty was going to come back, and I knew that that was the cat I should pick. At the ASPCA. So the next day we woke up. My mother and I and my father, we drove to the ASPCA in Manhattan, and my cousin was there, and he showed us three kittens, two black kittens, and the cat I had seen in my dream, a baby calico. She was 6 weeks old. Okay, and my mother wanted me to take a black cat, or both of them, the black kittens, and I was like, no. I had a dream. This little cat is my cat. The cat was rolled up. This little kitty. She was so beautiful. This little cat, a kitten, was rolled up in her food dish. She was very small. And I said they had found her on the streets of Manhattan, and it was a very traumatic beginning for her. And she was a very nervous cat. So my mother argued, and she likes to argue, and she wanted me to take the black kitten. She thought it was cuter. She thought Scrappy. I named her Scrappy. She thought Scrappy was not pretty and all screwed up. Well, she wasn't looking that good because she just got brought in. So, but I said, no. I saw this cat in a dream. This is the cat God wants me to have. And I took Scrappy home. Okay. They put her, we didn't have a case at that point. They gave us like this thick cardboard carrying case. The cat meowed the whole way home. I couldn't silence her. I couldn't soothe her. I was just in the front seat talking to her and holding her in the carrying case and petting her. And we took her home. I hadn't named her yet, but she, I don't know, we put her in a little thing in the bathroom. When you got a cat, you should keep her in a small space first, especially as a kitten, to get used to the whole house. Okay? And she was in the, I put like a little cardboard box and bedding, and so she'd be warm and be like a motherly feeling. And she meowed the whole time, and I was in my room across the hall. I couldn't. I just slept with her on the floor of the bathroom, and tried to console her because she wouldn't stop crying. And then she did something kittens will do, is get into things. She ran underneath the vanity in the bathroom, and I couldn't even see her. I was like freaking out. This cat's gonna disappear. So I had to like pull the bottom of the vanity, the molding. I had to pull it out, and I found her and I scooped her up, and maybe stuffed towels there so she couldn't get in there again. And I said, this cat gets into a lot of scraps. I'm gonna call her Scrappy. Okay, that was the name. So she was Scrappy, and Scrappy was a nervous cat. I guess she had a bad childhood, even though it was 6 weeks. Like with people, if you get trauma, it can last a lifetime. So that was Scrappy. And then about a week or two later, I came home, and my mother said, go look in the den. I was like, why? I was like, there's something in there for you. I want you to see. So I went downstairs, and in the den, in the middle of the couch, was probably the cutest cat I've ever seen in my life. A kitten, another kitten. She had got another kitten from a friend of hers. And she said, well, I wanted to have two kittens. So I saw this cat. I fell in love with it. I knew you'd love him. He looked like a teddy bear. He was all gray. He was thin. The most beautiful cat I've ever seen. So I called him Teddy. I named him Teddy for teddy bear. So now we had two cats, Teddy and Scrappy. Both kittens, and they grew up. They were wonderful friends. They slept together. They played together. It was a wonderful thing. Then, a few months later, just as in my dream, Kitty comes back. And Kitty was not happy when she came back to find two more kittens in her place. I guess maybe they're almost a year old at that point. Maybe it was another 6 months that Kitty finally came back. But just like in my dream predicted, Kitty came back. And Kitty and Scrappy, the two female cats, Teddy was a boy, Kitty and Scrappy did not get along. And they let each other know it. Mostly it was Scrappy this is her territory. Now this other female cat came back. All the cats were fixed, but Scrappy would not accept Kitty into the house, and she harassed her and chased her, and I had to separate them. Kitty was very scared. She was unhappy. She was unhappy with me. She for like a year she was mad at me. Cats are like people; they can be jealous, and the cat would I would go to pet her and she'd be like, "Ugh." She was mad at me. Like, I didn't do it. You ran away. But the cat was mad at me for like 6 months or a year. And it's a fairly large house, middle class house in Staten Island. We tried to separate the cats, but they lived, and all three of them went out. They were indoor outdoor cats. The neighborhood was quiet then, and they got along. Eventually. Actually, one time, Scrappy and Kitty were in um, one of the rooms, and Scrappy was right after her, hissing, putting her back up, freaking out. She was going to kill Kitty. So that time I got mad, and I put my foot down, and I yelled. I yelled, "Scrappy, leave that fucking cat alone!" But I yelled it really loud, and she backed down. Then, a few hours later, Scrappy showed me her distaste with me. She didn't like being yelled at. I was her man. I was her master, her friend, whatever cats consider you. Her friend, her daddy. I was her daddy, and she did not like it. And cats can be vengeful. So this cat knew I liked to watch TV then a lot, and she got up. I didn't see it, but when I came back, I realized this is what she had done. She sat on top of the TV, put her backside over the TV, and pissed all over the TV. It was all over. It was everywhere. And there's nothing I could do. She had gotten her revenge and gave me the message, "Don't yell at me like that, Daddy. I don't like it." And that was the last time I yelled at her. And I had to clean up the TV with whatever stuff I could. I cleaned it. Okay. Now, Kitty was much older. So Kitty lived about 16 years, as I said. And one day, she just got old. And one day, she wasn't feeling well. She wasn't eating. I took her to the vet. And the vet said, he felt her around. He said, "No, she's got cancer. It's too much. It's inoperable. We're going to have to put her to sleep." And it devastated me. I love this cat, And I started crying in the vet's office, and he gave me tissues. And I said, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm crying." And he said, "No, I think it's weird when people don't cry when they lose their animal." And I didn't put her to sleep then. And I probably should have, but I was young. I was in my 20s. I really didn't understand. I took her home so my mother could say goodbye to her, too. It was a family cat. We loved her. Mostly it was me and my mother who loved her. My father wasn't into cats. My sisters, they weren't into cats. I don't think they didn't even live there at that time anyway. But so I was there, and then I think my mother made a point. I didn't want to be there to put her to sleep. I thought it was going to be too traumatic for me. So my mother made an appointment with the vet, and she was going to bring her there to put Kitty to sleep. And like 2 days later, she died on her own. I found her on the floor in my mother's room, dead. It was a horrible, horrible thing. And if any of you, and there were billions of you out there who love their animals, cats, dogs, birds, whatever it is, you know how hard it is to lose a pet, especially one that's been around in your life for 16 years. She was part of my family. She was like my daughter. I was her daddy. It's a tough thing to go through. Then, so Kitty was gone, and Scrappy and Teddy were left. And they both, it's interesting, all three of them lived like 16 years. Scrappy and Teddy, they lived many years. And they both went in and out. They never really had any problems. They were barely sick. My cat Scrappy was always kind of nervous, and she never liked my mom. I swear she knew my mom didn't want to adopt her. She knew. She hated my mom. She loved everybody else. Be careful what you say. Animals understand a lot more than you think they do. So So then eventually, years later, I moved downstairs to the downstairs apartment, my mother's house. It was a two-family house. It was a beautiful apartment downstairs. I had it fixed up, and this cat Scrappy was so smart that all I had to do is move all my stuff down. I moved fast. I moved my dressers, my bed, everything. One thing I had on my wall, my clothes. In like 4 hours, I had the whole apartment done. And this cat was outside just running around doing her thing. And she was so smart. All I did is open the door and she came in. And that was it. She knew that was her new home with me. I don't know how she knew. She saw me moving everything. It's incredible. The cat was so smart. Now, Teddy, the boy cat, he was a gray, pure gray cat. A beautiful cat, like I said. And he didn't like me moving away. I tried to let him in too. My mother wanted him to stay upstairs, but I didn't. We kind of fought over the cat a little bit. I said, no, Teddy will live with me and Scrappy. That's my cat. That's my kitten. You got him for me. So, but Teddy didn't want that. He was so mad that I moved downstairs. Every time he came to my house downstairs, he'd take a pee. He'd piss on the rug, on my nice Persian rug that I had. He would pee all over it, and I couldn't let him in. He did it like 3 times. I said, "Well, you can't come. You live with mom now, buddy. You're a bad cat." So he lived upstairs with mom and dad, and I lived downstairs in a separate apartment with Scrappy. And me and Scrappy were happy for years and years. The cat went through everything with me, and eventually the cat got old. And she was also 16, and I was laying on the couch one day just watching Simpsons or something cool that I like, something funny, and I heard this huge scream from the other room. I knew it was the cat, and I got up and I ran. I ran uh, to the bedroom, and she was already dead. She must have had they said she probably had a clot or a heart attack or a stroke like that. So she went painlessly, and I was happy for that. I mourned her. I did. I cried. I went up to my mother. I said, Scrappy's dead. I was crying, but I was just grateful that she went easy and didn't have like a long disease like Kitty did, and and then there was no Scrappy. So, and Teddy got sick recently, a little after that, and he he had cancer in his sinus cavities, and he really suffered a lot. And it was really horrible, and there would be like big lumps of snot in his nose and glue, like glue, and I would pick it out of him and pull it out of his nose so he could breathe. I literally had to stick my finger in it, you know, basically in his nostrils to pull it out. And I love the cat that much. Love Teddy. What a beautiful soul, spirit, soul, whatever you say. To me, cats have souls. Um, so eventually, we asked the vet, what does it feel like to him? He said it feels like the worst headache you could possibly imagine. So we had him put to sleep. Again, I didn't want to go. I thought I was too sensitive. I didn't want to watch him die. My mother did it herself. She was strong. And, we still miss him. And that was like 20 years ago. The cat was amazing. He come inside. He slept with us. The cat slept with me when I was up there at my mother's house. Scrappy always slept with me when I was in the downstairs part. They were just wonderful parts of my life, huge parts of my life. I spent a lot of time alone, just with my cats, just holding the cat, petting the cat on my chest, playing with the cat. They like strings and little things, and I got toys for them. I had to bring them to the vet for their shots. Getting the food. They were enmeshed in my life so much. It's incredible. Okay. Then years went by, and I decided to get another cat. Right while I was in that apartment. Okay, and I prayed to God. I said, God, please find me the right cat, the perfect cat for me. And I was looking around, and I went into a store, a pet store, like a Petco or no, it was a private store. It wasn't Petco. It was like a private animal store, and they had what do you call it? Cages set up where they were giving up adopted kittens. And I went in there, And I looked at this one cat on the bottom. I don't remember what she looked like. I was like, oh, that cat is cute. All of a sudden, something whacks me in the head. I was like, holy shit! And it was this other cat, this orange cat. It whacked me in the head, and I said, all right, this is the cat God wants me to have. I know it. That was the sign. I always say, give me a sign, God. I said, all right, this is my cat. So I had the people come over. It's a beautiful cat, 10 weeks old. No, 8 weeks old. The cat's name was Chester, and I kept Chester, and I kept that name. And, some people change it. That was the name they gave him, but I liked it. I said Chester's a good name. So I took Chester home with me. It was like $50 just to pay. To it's not it's like an adoption fee, and they do like a whole survey, and they see if your house is on the first floor, if it had windows. Like, they don't just put out these cats to anyone. You have to be responsible, an adult, have the right kind of house. And so I passed all their tests, and I got Chester home. The cat was incredible. As a kitten, he didn't hide. A lot of times they run to hide. No. The first day, he was on my stomach. He came right under my neck, went to sleep right under my neck. I put my hand, he just went to sleep. The first day, right on my neck, and he purred. I never had a cat this wonderful. This cat was so loving, so joyful. He had a sense of humor. He was amazing. I thought this cat was psychic himself. He would play this game with me, even when he was a kitten. I would be on the couch, and I want to take a nap, and I would like move to the left. The cat would sneak out, smack me on the head, and run. And I turned around, and I would barely see him. He would be running around into the wall. This cat loved playing games with me. He thought it was funny. He was such an amazing cat. I mean, the things he did, I wish I could remember more. But he would just love to cuddle. He loved to play. He was always purring loudly. Even when I took him to the vet, he said, I can't even hear his heart. He's purring so loud. He was always happy. He liked to sit on the table, and I played with feathers with him. He was an amazing cat. Okay? And I had him for 2 years. Only 2. And this is not a happy story, people. I'm sorry. It ends very tragically. He was my favorite cat of all time. Chester, there's no cat like him. He was beautiful. He was sweet. He was fun. I don't know. There's something about him. He was a magical cat, And so the cat, for like 2 or 3 weeks, I had insomnia. Okay, something was keeping me up. I couldn't sleep for 3 fucking weeks. And I'm a very unconscious warrior. I mean, I could feel things when things are happening, and I knew something wasn't right. And then one day, Chester threw up bile, green bile. I said, "That's it. He's dead." I was married by then, and I said to my wife, "I said, that's it. He's got cancer. It's in his liver. It's in his blood. It's in his intestines. It's everywhere. He's dead." And she said, "Why do you think that? He just threw up once." I was like, "No. I know my cat. I know my dream. I know my lack of sleep. I meant there's a reason this cat is gonna die." And I took him to the vet right away. I had a really good vet on Staten Island. He was the best. And he said the cat has got a tumor wrapped around his kidney, and I don't think he can. He's gonna survive. So, he said, we could try surgery. He's a young cat. Let's see. Maybe I could remove the tumor. And I said, all right, go for it. Let's just try it. This is my love. This is my son. This is my cat. This is Chester. He was only 2 years old, And so he had surgery. And he said, if it's too bad, I just won't let him wake up. I'll just put him to sleep. So that's what happened. I was waiting for the call. Oh wait, I'm gonna go back a minute. He was supposed to have the surgery. It was in the winter. It was in the winter. He was supposed to have surgery, and it snowed like 2 feet that day, and I swear God gave me just one more day to be with him, and even in all his pain, all he did is play that day. He laid on the table. He jumped on me. He played with games. They'd given him some some fluids and stuff to help him. I had to force feed him for like a week. It was very disturbing because he wouldn't eat. But this one day, he propped up. I think he knew he was going to die the next day and wanted one perfect day with me in the winter in a snowstorm. And we had it together. And that was the last day I was with Chester. There's so many more amazing stories about him, but I'm going to keep this brief. So the next day, I brought him to the vet. I came home. I very tensely waited for the call. The call came that I knew was going to come. It was too bad, the cancer. And he died in his sleep. They put him to sleep during the operation. I cried for that cat like I've never cried for any living thing. Family member. My father died. My aunt died. My godmother died. My friends have died. I never cried for anything or anyone like Chester. Okay. It took me years to get over it, you know. And I was never going to get a cat again. Ever. I said, that's it for me, man. I can't take this kind of pain. I'm too sensitive. That was my son. That was my boy. And he destroyed me. I'm telling you, I was in mourning for a long time. Okay. Now, let's go to the final story about my cats. Of course, a few years passed, and not even a few years, because Chester died while I was married to my wife, and then we decided we wanted more cats. And I said, all right, let's get cats. So we went to, she is allergic to cats. So she said, there's got to be hypoallergenic cats. I went on the internet, and I tried to find a cat. We were just going to get one cat who was hypoallergenic. And I found this new breed that was in America from Russia, the Siberian cats. And it said that the boy cats had very little of the A protein in their saliva, which is what gives the cats the allergens. They were big cats. They were related to Maine Coons. And so they were related to Maine Coons. And they were big, beautiful cats, So we saw one cat. It was just been born. We saw the whole litter over the internet. The lady, she was a Russian chemist, a brilliant lady. She had a PhD, and she was the breeder, and they were in southern Jersey. So, my wife and I decided to get a cat. They weren't cheap. They were about $1,000. I say they because I convinced her I wanted another cat. I wanted two. I said, it'll be good if we go away for a weekend or whatever it is. They'll have each other. It's better to have two cats than one. I wanted two. We have a little argument about it, but she agreed. She had never had an animal before. She grew up in a pet-free house, but she wanted the cat, and she agreed with me. So we paid $2,000 for two Siberian kittens, both 10 weeks old. So we went down to the breeder in South Jersey. I drove down there, and it was like kind of a rainy day, and we spent 3 hours with this breeder. The breeder was a little crazy. She had so many rules. She wanted us to feed them mice, like dead mice from the freezer, and food, raw meat. This lady was a little eccentric. And they showed me the father. The father was 21 pounds. He was this big cat. He was a champion. They had his certificates, his trophies. He was a show cat. And I said, I had to sign an agreement that I would fix my cats and never bring them to a show, which I was going to fix them anyway. So I named them Boris and Linus, and Boris and Linus were my cats. And so we took them in as kittens. The ride home was crazy, meaning it was raining. I was so tense, I had a seizure, meaning I have epilepsy. And small seizures I get in my eyes, where my eyes kind of move, it's hard to see. So it was nighttime, I was tense, I was having a seizure, and I drove 3 hours with these cats in the back, my wife to my right, through a horrible thunderstorm, just to get these cats home and safe. And that was a crazy beginning. to the Linus and Boris saga. Okay, so Linus and Boris were two crazy ass kittens. They brought a lot of life to the house. They jumped on everything. They ran it. They were very strong cats. They were a good breed. They were athletic. They could jump across the room. Each one was crazier than the other. Boris would pull everything off my wall, pull the tacks out, knock over all my pictures and paintings. They were crazy. And we loved it. They wouldn't let us sleep. They were out of their minds as kittens can be. And we loved them. Eventually, my wife and I divorced, and I kept the cats because there was no way she was getting my cats, and that was our agreement anyway. Because when she moved back home, there was no way anyone was getting my cats. So I lived with Linus and Boris for many years, and they were wonderful. God, were they good cats. When they got a little older, Siberian cats don't reach adulthood until 5 years old. They were just wonderful. They were cuddly and they were cute. They loved to play. I wish I had a day to just tell you about these cats, but I have limited time on this YouTube channel. They were wonderful. I guess I'll just get to the end of it. What could I say? They were my children. For real. I moved around a lot later on, and they always came with me. Some places they liked better, some places they didn't. But this all ended when they were 14 last year. And it started with Linus. So they were healthy, and I had in my delusional mind, I thought they would live into their 20s. Like, these cats they're purebred. They have a champion as a father. It was beautiful. I thought they would live into their 20s. I never thought they would die so young at 14. But they did. And so Linus got sick. Okay, he started not eating, hiding in places. This is very unlike him. He loved to eat. Linus ate anything. And so I took him to the vet. I was living in New Jersey. And the vet didn't know exactly what was wrong with him at first. So we tried to put him on antibiotics. He had a fever, and he tried to treat him, but the cat was going downhill. So I had to take care of him, like a caretaker. My son, my cat. I never had children. I don't want children, but we had cats. So Linus was dying, and I knew it. I knew he was dying. The vet said he didn't know yet. I knew he was dying. I have intuition. The cat only would drink from the toilet because that was just, cats, a lot of cats, because of the way they grow up in the wild, they don't like to drink water next to their food because they know instinctively it could be contaminated. The Boris had no problem with it. I had the water across the room. Linus would only drink from the toilet, and he was stubborn about it. So he was getting weaker and weaker, and the horrible things. He was sitting on a toilet trying to drink, and I heard a big crash, and he fell into the garbage can. It was such a humiliation for the cat. I had to fish him out of the garbage can. He fell into the water. Eventually, I would just hold him over the toilet and try to get him to drink, and he would drink a little bit, and I would hold him. It was a fucking nightmare for me and Linus. I was devastated. I tried to give him his medicine. He had like 3 different pills and liquids to take. I was trying to hydrate him all the time. He slept with me, and I would pray. I would say, Linus, just let go. You can go. I prayed to God, just take him. Let him die on my arms. I just wanted Linus to die with his father, with me. I knew he was going to go. This went on for 3-4 weeks. Eventually, he wouldn't even take the medicine. He wouldn't eat. He wouldn't drink. He was dehydrating. He was disintegrating. It was a nightmare. I love this cat with all my heart. With all my heart. Both of them, Boris and Linus. They slept with me every night. Linus would sleep in the crux of my arm like this. I'd wake up. I had pins and needles because I didn't want to move him. Boris would sleep right on the other side. Every night he would sleep in my arms. Like a teddy bear. And So the doctor recommended a specialist, a really great animal hospital, also in New Jersey. And we went there to a heart doctor because he thought it was a heart problem. And he said his heart is fine, but he consulted with, it was a real hospital. Like, I mean, this is like Stone Kettering for cats and dogs. But he found out that the cat had peritonitis. Right? All his organs were inflamed. They took a blood sample. They took a sample of blood. There was blood and liquids all throughout his. It was over, and I said, he said, we agreed. It's time for Linus to be put to sleep, and my mother was there with me for support, and that's it. He died in my arms, asleep. The doctor, I cried. My mother was crying hysterically. The doctor was a beautiful man, a beautiful Asian man who hugged me, and I needed that hug. And that was the end of Linus. But it wasn't the end of my pain. Meaning, I really didn't cry that much after that. I was so in shock. I developed PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. I have never put a cat to sleep before. Linus and Boris were very close to me, and Boris was still alive, and he suffered too. But I was writing my book at the time, Bipolar Disorder Through My Eyes, a memoir of hope, and I wrote every day anyway, maybe to kill the pain. But I was getting symptoms that I haven't had in 20 years from depression. All kinds of horrible things, OCD and anxiety attacks. I couldn't sleep. I didn't want to eat. It destroyed me. I suffered a relapse of mental illness because of putting that cat to sleep and watching him suffer for all that times. And bipolar, people with bipolar are very susceptible to trauma. And this was maybe the most traumatic thing, or close to it, that ever happened to me. God, I love that cat. And then, 6 months later, Boris stopped eating. And I was like, and I was watching my mother's dog. My mother has a little doggy. And I was paying a lot of attention to the dog because the dog has special needs. So I was sleeping with the dog and taking her out for walks. And my cat, I always get them separate because they didn't get along, the two cats and the dog. So I thought Boris was mad at me because I was taking care of the dog. I didn't know he was really sick. I thought he was going on a hunger strike, because cats get jealous. I thought, well, Boris, he'll be fine when my mother comes home and I'm back with him. But my mother knew. She said, I don't think so. I think he's really sick. I said, well, let's take him to the vet. We took him to the vet. Again, my mother came with me. And that was it. He had cancer, the kidneys, and all. He was done. So I had to put him to sleep. 6 months later, at 14, almost 15, Boris lived. And that was horrible. And in a weird way, it wasn't quite as bad because I didn't suffer with him. I thought he was fine. I thought he was just acting out. And it went quickly. And that was the end of Boris and Linus, my wonderful cats. And I'm telling you, I don't even know if I'm over it now. It was over a year ago. It's hard. I'll never get animals again. I am done for real this time. You can quote me on that. I go to visit my friends and hang out with their cats. I don't want to go through that kind of pain again. I don't know if I could take it. All right. I'm going to end it here. If you love animals, you're awesome. Cats, dogs, birds, frogs, fish, turtles, I've had them all. I never had a bird, but I have the other ones. But I'm done for now. Talk to me in 100 years. Maybe I'll get another cat. All right. This has been David Weissner. Oh, David Speaks. This is David William Weissner. Bless you. And if you have an animal, God, treat them well. They're not going to be here forever. Okay. Good night.